Growing up in the shadow of Victoria Hamilton was like living under a microscope. Every breath I took felt analyzed, every choice dissected. My father, the formidable CEO of Hamilton Industries, had charted my life's course before I even learned to walk. "Charlotte, darling," he'd pronounce, adjusting his impeccably tailored Armin suit. "A Hamilton never settles for second best." Our sprawling Beverly Hills mansion, a monument to carefully curated luxury with its 28 rooms, echoed that sentiment. But to me, it felt less like a home and more like an opulent cage. By 25, I had dutifully followed my father's script. A Harvard Business School diploma, a junior executive position at Hamilton Industries, and an engagement to Bradley Winchester III, the heir to Winchester Technologies, my father's meticulously chosen husband-to-be. There was only one, rather significant problem. I was head over heels in love with someone else. I met James Mitchell on a particularly gloomy Tuesday morning when my beloved, but temperamental, Ferrari decided to give up the ghost en route to work. He was the knight in shining, albeit grease-stained, armor who arrived in a battered tow truck, sporting a grin that sent a jolt straight to my heart. "Looks like your timing belt's shot," he said, wiping his hands on his well-worn jeans. "I can fix it, but it'll take a few hours." Something about his honest brown eyes, and the way he explained the mechanics without a hint of condescension, convinced me to forego the usual Uber and wait at his small, unassuming garage. That decision, I knew instantly, would irrevocably alter the course of my life. Over steaming cups of truly awful vending machine coffee, I discovered that James wasn't just any mechanic. He'd put himself through engineering school, graduating at the top of his class. He could have easily landed a cushy corporate gig, but he genuinely loved the hands-on work, the problem-solving, the tangible satisfaction of fixing things. "Life's too short to spend it doing something just because it looks good on paper," he told me, his eyes twinkling with an infectious enthusiasm. Those words struck me like a lightning bolt. For the first time, someone had articulated the very feelings that had been swirling within me for years. One coffee turned into another, then dinner, then stolen moments carved out from my suffocating world. James never inquired about my family's wealth, never attempted to impress me with lavish restaurants or extravagant gifts. Instead, he shared the simple joys, midnight drives along the Pacific Coast Highway, picnics in hidden, sun-drenched parks, and laughter. Oh God, the laughter. For 6 glorious, clandestine months, I lived a double life. Society princess by day, utterly myself by night. But I knew this fragile equilibrium couldn't last forever. The breaking point arrived during a particularly unbearable charity gala held at our mansion. Bradley was droning on about impenetrable merger strategies to anyone within earshot, while my mother paraded me around like a prize-winning show pony. "Charlotte will be taking over East Coast operations after the wedding," she announced to yet another cluster of socialites, her voice dripping with self-satisfaction. "The Winchesters and the Hamiltons. Imagine the possibilities." I felt like I was drowning. Excusing myself with a weak smile, I fled to the manicured serenity of the garden, my trembling fingers already dialing James' number. "I can't do this anymore," I whispered into the phone, tears streaming down my face. "I can't marry Bradley. I can't be who they want me to be." James was silent for a moment, his quiet understanding a balm to my frayed nerves. "Then don't be. Be who you are, Charlotte. That's the person I fell in love with." That night was a watershed moment. The next morning, I marched into my father's mahogany-paneled study, my heart hammering against my ribs, but my resolve as solid as the imported marble fireplace. "Daddy, I need to tell you something," I began, my voice shaking only slightly. "I can't marry Bradley. I'm in love with someone else." The explosion that followed was nuclear. My father's face flushed an alarming shade of purple as I stammered out the story of James, and my yearning for a life different from the one he had so meticulously planned. "A mechanic?" he roared, his fist slamming against the polished surface of his desk. "My daughter, a Hamilton, in love with a grease monkey. He's an engineer, Daddy, and he's brilliant. If you would just meet him." "Absolutely not." My father's voice could have shattered glass. You will marry Bradley as planned, or you can forget about your trust fund, your position at the company, everything. Is that clear? I stood taller, drawing on a reservoir of strength I didn't know I possessed. Crystal clear. Daddy, goodbye. Walking out of that study was the hardest thing I'd ever done. My mother's theatrical sobs, my father's thinly veiled threats, the hushed whispers of the household staff, it all followed me as I hastily packed a small bag and left the only home I had ever known. James was waiting for me outside his modest apartment building, a visible furrow of worry etched on his brow. When I recounted the morning's events, he tried to dissuade me. Charlotte, that's your whole life you're giving up. Your family, your inheritance. I can't let you do that for me. I silenced him with a kiss, pouring all my love and gratitude into that single gesture. I'm not giving up my life, James. I'm finally starting it. The next few months were a crash course in real life. I moved into James' cozy one-bedroom apartment, secured an entry-level position as a business consultant at a small firm, and learned to navigate the treacherous waters of a budget. It wasn't easy, but for the first time in my life, I felt truly, unequivocally free. My parents' attempts to bring me to my senses ranged from emotionally manipulative phone calls to outright, scorched earth tactics. They froze my accounts, canceled my credit cards, and even attempted to sabotage my new job. But with each obstacle, James and I grew stronger, our bond forged in the fires of adversity. When we decided to get married, we envisioned a simple ceremony in a local park. No designer gown, no society photographers, just us and a handful of close friends. The morning of the wedding, I received a terse text message from my mother. Your father and I will be attending. One last chance to fix this mistake. My heart skipped a beat as I showed the message to James. He squeezed my hand reassuringly. It's your call, love. Whatever you want. I wanted them there. Despite everything, they were still my parents. So, when I walked down the makeshift aisle in my simple white dress from a department store, my eyes instinctively sought them out at the back. My father looked as if he'd swallowed a particularly sour lemon, while my mother dabbed delicately at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. Neither made a move to participate in the ceremony. During the reception, a casual barbecue in the park, they made their final, desperate plea. Charlotte, darling. My mother's voice dripped with forced sweetness. It's not too late. Bradley would still take you back. Think about what you're throwing away. My father, never one for subtlety, cut straight to the chase. This is your last chance, young lady. Stay with this person, and you'll never see a penny of your inheritance. Is that what you want? To live in poverty? I glanced at James, who was animatedly chatting and laughing with our friends, completely at ease in his rented suit. Then I looked back at my parents, trapped in their gilded cage of wealth and expectations. What I want, I said clearly, my voice ringing with conviction, is to be happy. James makes me happy. If you can't understand that, then maybe we don't need your money or you in our lives. My father's face darkened to that familiar, ominous shade of purple. You're no daughter of mine, he spat, turning sharply on his heel. My mother hesitated for a moment, a flicker of regret in her eyes, then hurried after him. As they stormed away, James appeared at my side, wrapping a comforting arm around my waist. You okay? I leaned into him, watching my old life recede into the distance. Never better. That was 6 months ago. We settled into a comfortable rhythm, working hard, loving harder. James continued to run his garage while diligently pursuing his master's degree at night. I threw myself into my consulting work, steadily building my own client base. We were happy, truly happy, even if it meant carefully watching our spending and religiously clipping coupons. But there was a secret James had been keeping from me, a revelation that was about to turn my world upside down once again. Everything changed on a seemingly ordinary Friday evening. I came home from work early, eager to surprise James with takeout from our favorite Thai place. But our apartment was empty, save for a hastily scribbled note on the kitchen counter. Working late at the garage. Love you. It wasn't unusual for James to work late, but something felt different this time. Lately, he'd been preoccupied, fielding mysterious phone calls and working odd hours. A knot of anxiety tightened in my stomach as my mind conjured up dark scenarios. Was history about to repeat itself? Was I about to lose everything again? Unable to quell my growing unease, I decided to bring dinner to him at the garage. But when I pulled up, the place was shrouded in darkness. James' battered truck was conspicuously absent from its usual spot. My hands trembled as I dialed his number. Straight to voicemail. Just as panic began to claw at the edges of my sanity, my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Mrs. Mitchell, please come to 1875 Highland Avenue immediately. It's about your husband. My heart lurched to a standstill. Highland Avenue was located in the industrial district, miles away from James' garage. With shaking fingers, I typed the address into my GPS and sped through the darkening city, bracing myself for the worst. The GPS led me to a massive, modern building with sleek glass walls. Security gates opened automatically as I approached, and a uniformed guard directed me to an underground parking garage. Mrs. Mitchell, he nodded respectfully. Take the executive elevator to the top floor. Executive elevator? Top floor? What on earth was going on? The elevator doors slid open, revealing a stunning office suite with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the glittering cityscape. And there, standing at a gleaming glass desk with his back to me, was James, but not the James the first knew. Gone were the worn jeans and oil-stained t-shirt. In their place was an impeccably tailored suit that probably cost more than our monthly rent. When he turned around, his familiar warm smile was tinged with a palpable nervousness. Charlie, he said softly, using his special nickname for me. I think it's time I told you everything. Before he could elaborate, the office door burst open with dramatic force. And there, like a scene ripped from my most terrifying nightmare, stood my father, my mother, and Bradley Winchester III. What is the meaning of this? My father thundered, his face already turning that telltale shade of purple. Security said Charlotte was headed up here. What are you doing in the CEO's office? You mechanic. James straightened his tie and calmly walked around the desk, a subtle shift in his demeanor. Actually, Mr. Hamilton, I am the CEO. James Mitchell, founder and chief executive officer of Mitchell Innovations. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother instinctively grabbed a chair for support. Bradley's mouth hung open in an unflattering display of bewilderment, and my father, for the first time in my life, was utterly speechless. But, my mother stammered, her carefully constructed facade crumbling around her. You're a mechanic. James smiled, taking my hand in his. I own a chain of auto repair shops, yes. It was my first business, started with a loan from my college professor. But Mitchell Innovations is my primary focus. We're a tech company specializing in revolutionary electric vehicle batteries. That's what those late nights at the garage were about, finalizing our new prototype. My head was spinning, trying to process the sheer audacity of it all. Why hadn't he told me? Because I needed to know, James said softly, turning to face me, that when we met, I had just made the Forbes 30 under 30 list. Every woman I dated before was only interested in my money, my status. But you fell in love with me when I was just a mechanic. You gave up everything for me. I had to be sure that it was real. Mitchell Innovations, my father muttered, his ever-calculating business mind finally catching up. The company that just revolutionized electric vehicle battery technology. The one every major car manufacturer is fighting to partner with. That's you? James nodded. Our market valuation hit $12 billion last week. Not quite Hamilton Industries territory, but we're getting there. I couldn't suppress a laugh at the utterly dumbfounded expression on my father's face. All those months of looking down on my poor husband, and James had been quietly building an empire right under their noses. And now, James continued, his voice taking on a sharper edge, I'd like to discuss how you treated your daughter, the woman who, by the way, just became one of the largest shareholders in Mitchell Innovations when she married me. My father's face paled visibly. Hamilton Industries had been trying to break into the electric vehicle market for years. A deal with Mitchell Innovation would have been a game-changer. Now see here, my father blustered, attempting to regain some semblance of control. We were just looking out for Charlotte's best interests. By disowning her, trying to get her fired, making her cry herself to sleep for weeks, James' voice was deceptively soft, but carried a steely undercurrent. Daddy, I finally found my voice, a newfound strength resonating within me. You always taught me that Hamiltons never settle for second best. Well, I didn't. I married the most brilliant, kind, and successful man I've ever known. And I did it without knowing about any of this. Charlotte, sweetheart. My mother stepped forward, her arms outstretched in a gesture of contrition. We were wrong. We see that now. Please come home. I surveyed the magnificent office, then looked at James, my wonderful husband, who had allowed me the space to find my own way, to support myself, to grow stronger. I am home, Mom. But if you want to be a part of our lives, you'll have to accept us on our terms. No more manipulation, no more control. My father looked as if he was choking on something particularly unpleasant. And what about Hamilton Industries? James smiled, a hint of mischief dancing in his eyes. Well, sir, we've actually had several offers from your competitors for exclusive partnerships, but I thought, given the family connection, we might consider a different arrangement, if you're interested in discussing it as equals. The next hour unfolded in a surreal blur. My father and James engaged in intense business negotiations, while my mother fussed over my terrible apartment and insisted that we move into a proper home. Bradley, thoroughly defeated, had slunk away somewhere, presumably to lick his wounds. Later that night, back in our small apartment, I finally voiced the question that had been gnawing at me. Why keep working at the garage? Why live like this when you have billions? James pulled me close, his eyes filled with genuine affection. The garage keeps me grounded, reminds me where I started. And this apartment, these months with you, they've been the happiest of my life. We built this together, without any silver spoons or trust funds. Tears welled up in my eyes. I love you, you sneaky billionaire. He laughed, the sound filling the cozy space. I love you too, you runaway Harris. Life changed after that night, but not in the superficial ways people might expect. We did move, but into a modest house that we chose together, a place that felt like us. I joined Mitchell Innovations as head of their charitable foundation, channeling our resources to empower other young entrepreneurs. James still dedicates time to his original garage, teaching mechanical skills to underprivileged youth. My parents, well, they're trying. Mom still drops not-so-subtle hints about grandchildren needing trust funds, but Dad has developed a genuine respect for James. Their weekly business meetings often morph into lengthy discussions about everything from classic cars to philosophy. As for me, I finally understood what James meant about life being too short to live it on paper. Sometimes, the greatest blessings come disguised as broken-down Ferraris and coffee from vending machines. But the best part is that, every now and then, when we drive past our old apartment or grab Thai food from our favorite takeout joint, James still looks at me the same way he did when he was just a mechanic and I was just a runaway Harris. Because in the end, love doesn't care about bank accounts or business empires. It cares about who you are when everything else is stripped away. And we were simply Charlotte and James, a mechanic and a runaway Harris who found something far more valuable than billions. We found each other.